Over the summer, the number of immigrants apprehended along the southern border has been in decline. They peaked in May at more than 130,000 and have gradually decreased to just over 50,000 last month. Despite the drop, the numbers still outpace previous years and present ongoing challenges for customs and border protection. We learn more about the situation here in Arizona from Chief of the Tucson sector, Roy Villarreal.
What do the numbers look like here in Arizona?
Arizona, and Tucson in particular, has been somewhat of an anomaly. We've maintained somewhat of a status quo in that although we've increased our apprehensions by about 25%, it's not comparable to what we've witnessed in other places such as Rio Grande Valley, El Paso, and then even Yuma, just a little bit to the west of us. Where we've witnessed a dramatic increase in the types of arrest are family units and children. For us, family units here in Tucson increased by almost 300%.
What do you attribute that to?
And that's the same phenomenon that we've witnessed along the entire southwest border, in that family units were drawn to illegally enter, recognizing that there was a loophole in our immigration system, which ultimately led to this crisis. The other aspect is the unaccompanied minors. When you look across the entire southwest border, we arrested over 72,000 unaccompanied children. I mean, that number in and of itself it's just mind-boggling when you think about it. We're speaking of children as young as 4 or 5 up to the age of 17, traveling to the United States across multiple countries by themselves. And it's part and parcel with the family units and the unaccompanied children that caused our immigration system to come to a screeching halt.
Much of the scrutiny on the surge in families concerns conditions at processing centers run by Border Patrol.
My goal today is to dispel some of the misinformation that's out there in regards to our detention facilities.
In July, Villarreal recorded a tour of the processing center in Tucson, known as the Tucson Coordination Center.
What's here in front of me is a supply cart that is available to families and unaccompanied children. This is a combination of toilet, sink, and the sink provides fresh water.
The sector's 9 stations can detain and process immigrants apprehended by agents, but everyone is eventually transported to the facility in Tucson.
We recently saw footage of inside one of your processing centers where it showed there was an obvious pinch on your agency in being able to manage families, adults, and the resources. Has that been sustained?
Well, one of the aspects that helped alleviate some of that stress and that workload was an infusion of employees from throughout DHS, the Transportation Security Administration, Coast Guard. We had a number of people that volunteered. They were a surge force and they were deployed to the southwest border. And their primary focus was the care and well-being of our detainees. So at one point, just here in Tucson, over 60% of my workforce was dedicated strictly to that, the care and well-being of detainees. And what that accounts for is the feeding, the housing, hospital runs, transportation to nonprofit organizations once they're released. So for a period of time, the majority of my workforce was focused strictly on that, which meant that we had whole sections of the border that were left open and vulnerable. Where it became problematic was when these groups were being dropped off in very remote areas. And that was very strategic and tactical by the smuggling organizations, because they recognized that for us, it required in some cases shutting down checkpoints or a station in order to go out into these remote areas in the desert and pick up the family units and get them to a safe location. We have seen a dramatic decrease in that, and part and parcel to, I think, messaging and cooperation with the Mexican government.
Villarreal says Mexico has deployed around 10,000 members of its National Guard to its border with the United States. In his sector, the chief says the two sides work together on a daily basis by sharing intelligence and coordinating patrols in vulnerable areas. One example involves stepping up their presence in the West Desert to deter smugglers from dropping off families and children in the summer heat.
Has your sector then returned to some sense of normalcy?
Yes. One of the aspects, and I think along the entire southwest border, at one point when we were in the midst of this crisis, our total detainee population was over 19,000 individuals. Those principally families and unaccompanied children. Today, we have our daily average is about 4,000 detainees and just under about 150 unaccompanied children. Still sizable, not to say that that's still not having an impact on us, but when you compare 19,000 to just over 4,000, it's provided a sense of relief, a little bit of a calm so that we can better prepare, readjust, and again, get back to doing our mission, which is border security.
That mission includes the construction of new border fencing across the Southwest, including Arizona's Tucson and Yuma sectors. Video released by Customs and Border Protection shows construction near San Luis, Arizona, similar to what will go up along Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument and in Cochise County.
Fair to say there will still be some areas that don't have wall because the geography just doesn't lend itself to that.
We've identified areas that we consider to be vulnerabilities that present themselves for the construction of fencing, and there are areas where there's natural topography that serves as a deterrent. In some cases, we're replacing old, antiquated fencing with the new border fencing style, which is it's a 30-foot bollard fence with a 5-foot anti-climb structure on top. And in other cases, it's outright brand new fencing. We just started a project here in Tucson sector, going west of the Lukeville Port of Entry, and at its conclusion, it will be 38 miles of new fencing.
Why is a 30-foot wall necessary instead of 18-foot in some areas?
One of the things that you'll notice if you traverse the southwest border is that we have a myriad of fencing types. And that is based on the history of our design. We've designed different types, heights of the fencing. We've designed fencing that accommodates environmental concerns, water flow, endangered species. The 30-foot bollard was something that we tested very recently, and we found it to be extremely effective in that it's difficult to climb. It's 25 feet plus a 5-foot anti-climb segment on top. It's very difficult to climb over. So able-bodied individuals are going to be deterred by that fencing structure and design.
As we wrapped up our conversation, the discussion then turned to the Sanctuary City Initiative, or Prop 205 in Tucson, that if passed will restrict the police department's ability to work with federal agencies like Border Patrol.
Chief, you previously worked in California where there are sanctuary cities. Here in Tucson, there will be an initiative on the November ballot. How exactly will the Border Patrol work with local partners should it come to fruition?
Well, you know, the one aspect, irrespective of whether it's a sanctuary city or not, is that we're going to have a level of cooperation with our partners that shouldn't change because we have a common interest, which is keeping our community safe. So, again, I know this is a referendum and it's up to the voters to vote on this. I think as it relates to the law enforcement community, we're going to make every effort to make sure that we continue a level of cooperation and partnership. And then our ultimate goal, again, is to enforce the law and to make sure that we can keep the community and our state safe.
Okay. Chief, thank you.
Thank you.